I have sent you the presentation and the 3 documents on the WhatsApp group. I request you to kindly open that in your laptops. So today's topic is about disaster recovery and continuation. Disaster recovery and business continuity plan. I am not a compliance officer, but I've tried to understand what a plan or a policy is, and I've given you 3 examples of plans. Okay, one is from an academic institution, another is from a general policy document, and the third is for a business or a company. What is their disaster recovery plan? Okay, so initially, what exactly is disaster, and how do you define a disaster? Can you give me some examples of disasters? We have lots of that happening around now, right? Examples of disaster? Landslide, tsunami, different types, natural disasters, man-made disasters. Okay, that is political disasters, cultural disasters that happen, okay. What happens for these disasters? COVID was a disaster, and COVID recovery, we are still trying to create plans for it, trying to recover from it in our individual capacity as a government, as an institution. The problem is, as an individual, when we try to do it, it's very easy. We have our own plans and we try to change whatever we can. But for an organization, there is a head, there are a group of people around, and the hierarchy of information flow, the way in which the information is shared between people has to be done based on plans and policies. This is where policies come into picture. Okay, and what happens if one of an important officer in an organization gets deceased? Then there cannot be a stop of information flow. Okay, when the President of America had to undergo an operation, there was a disaster recovery plan. It's a emergency situation, and anything can happen. So there should be a plan that is in place, and normally as computer professionals, we do not think about these plans. We do not worry about these plans because we are technologists, and we have any problem, we immediately go for a fix and a set of rules that we will follow in order to fix the problem. Okay, there is a bug in your computers. How do you solve it? In your program that you have written a Python program or a C++ program, simple for computer professionals. You write a small set of code and there is a bug and it is not executing and it is not running properly. What are the steps you will follow in order to? It's a disaster, no? Exam, you have to show an output and the output is not coming. What is your disaster recovery plan? Clearing the errors, trying to find out what the error is, yes? Identifying the errors first, and what students normally say is comment out that statement, immediately the error goes out. It will say 100 errors, and students will get very worried because there are a lot of errors. Now how do I change it? All you'll have to put is a semicolon or a continuity statement, or you would have forgotten a comment, closure of a comment statement, and you would get 100 errors because the system is not able to understand it. Disaster recovery is a plan, is a set of policies which we do. So what we normally tell students when you debug is, you have to have a plan. If there are more number of errors, you'll have to look for simple problems in your code and try to fix all that. Then you trace down the code. Only a logical error is difficult to find out, whereas a syntactic error, now we have intelligent systems that automatically tell you. IntelliSense tells you where exactly you have made a syntax error and we don't even have to remember that. And now latest we go to Chat GPT, it gives you whatever code you want. Okay, and you type a problem statement, it gives you a beautiful set of code. Even if you type, give me a disaster recovery plan, your GPT would give you a beautiful plan laid out for us. Okay, so how do we as humans get over whatever AI can do now in order to make our own plans for the problems that we face? Disaster recovery plan is a strategy designed to minimize downtime. What is this downtime? For you and me, downtime is a break. We are academicians. In class, say PPT is not working, 10 minutes free time. No? Faculty will be meddling with the laptop and you have a free time. Whereas for a company, the downtime is in terms of money. You know, it would run into so many crores of loss, rupees loss for a company, and the downtime has to be minimized. For YouTube, even if it is 0.1 second, the server goes down, the stocks have a steep fall. There is a link with the stock market, and it will affect the reputation of the company. And you look at Visa, PayPal, all those are said to have high integrity systems. You know, the compliance policies, then contracts, everything would be highly confidential, built on a lot of integrity base. And even if one breach occurs in their system, you and I will lose our confidence on the financial systems. Okay, so it reflects in the amount of money that is being spent, and this downtime has to be minimized. You cannot eliminate downtime. As long as human beings are involved, as long as systems are involved, as long as disasters happen, even if you say that you have the best type of systems in the whole world. You know, I remember reading Israel's type of security that they provided with. You know, they had surveillance, they had air surveillance, they had an iron dome, they had everything, and then these people just blew up the walls and walked inside, happily inside. Why? Because they went beyond technology, you know, used old-fashioned means in order to burst into the system. This is where you cannot eliminate downtime, but you have to have a plan for disaster recovery. So the downtime is by restoring the data and IT infrastructure after a disaster happens. How much time do I take to let that happen? Okay. So certain cases you can wait for a day, no problem. But in certain cases, even 1 second would result in millions of crores of rupees. If it is the MIS of NIT Trichy, you can take 1 day, 6 months, they'll be very happy because their grades would be delayed, no? Giving out the grades to them. No problem, it doesn't affect, okay? Whereas you look at the YouTube system or Facebook servers and they have a downtime, there should be immediate recovery plan, okay? That is why if you look at Google servers, they use replication of data. Even if one goes off, the data is being replicated in another place, copied into another server, so that that server can be immediately instantiated. We had people from IDRBT, you know, the Banking Regulation Board, doing their PhD here. And when I was interacting to them, they said that we try to create layers of security. Because in a banking system, all you'll have to do is see that the banking server doesn't go down. So how will you maintain that? Because there will be power cuts, there will be hacking incidents happening. All you'll have to do is put one layer over the other, increase the number of layers, have a backup, have a DG power generator system, try to put more layers onto it so that even if one layer fails, the other layer will provide with security. And they have a plan for it. This plan is what we call as a disaster recovery plan. It outlines, I'm not going into what is a disaster because we have encountered a lot of disasters in recent times. And it keeps happening one after the other, right? It outlines the procedures and protocols of an organization, ensuring continuous operation within the company during and after the disruptive incidents. For a company, for an educational institution to continuously continue doing whatever work we have without disruption, we try to have a procedure or a protocol. And this procedure or a protocol has to be predefined, known by everyone in the company, so that in time of a disaster, they would know what to do, when to do, and how to do. Okay? Say if there is a theft happening, there is a protocol to be followed. Immediately the security officer is told, the police is informed, and the scene is cordoned off. These are all protocols or steps. An accident happens. Immediately the victim is taken to the hospital. If you need, an ambulance is called for, a police is called for in that place, a picture of that incident is taken for insurance claim. These are all some of the simple protocols that we follow for any problem or any disaster that happens. Okay. Now, one is said to be disaster recovery. The next, go to the next slide. Next, we call it business continuity plan. You know, when my car got into an accident, okay, the next 2 weeks, I was not able to drive the car because the car was in the workshop. Okay, so should I stop, take a leave till my car comes back and then continue with my work? Not possible. There should be a continuity, and I should find out alternative means of doing that. Okay. There can be a disaster. Just because there's a disaster, we keep blaming the disaster, then company will run into losses because of it. So the continuity is different. Disaster recovery is different. Continuity of the business is different. Even for recovery and restoration of critical IT systems and infrastructure. Okay, so after the disruptive incident has happened, we should have a plan in order to recover and a set of protocols to follow based on it. Okay, the next slide. So this is one example of a picture that I took. You know, this is a business continuity and disaster recovery planning. There are 3 layers to it. One is the infrastructure layer, the other is the management layer, and the third is the policy layer. So the infrastructure, yes. The infrastructure layer says there are servers, storage systems, network components, data backup, offsite replication, alternative sites, information technology recovery processes, all this being defined, and these are as hardware. You know, you have a server, the server room is completely air conditioned to prevent heating and fire. The electrical compliance is being done, and there are set procedures for the electrical wiring that has to be done. Storage systems, replication of servers and a backup server, and how often do you update your backup servers so that you have a updated data in the backup server during downtimes. You know, times when the servers have a very less traffic, we try to back up the server so that the information can be replicated. Then the networking components, say someone is digging a hole for some other job in the institute, they should not dig up a network cable. Okay, so there can be covers for the network cable, coloring, and then information, because the person digging has no technical knowledge. He only knows how to use a spade. So there should be proper methods in order to protect the network cabling that connects the system, because one cut cable and it becomes a disaster. Okay, we are very happy with disasters because we take disasters as interruptions so that we can take some rest for some time. But if your working time involves making money, then it results in a loss of jobs, or it results in loss of monetary benefits that we could get. and all companies have a disaster recovery and business continuity plan. The IT recovery process, say a server is compromised or hacked, what is the steps that has to be followed? Who has to be informed, and how will the server be isolated, and how will you be able to protect the systems here, okay? There should be a firewall, there should be a sanitized zone, there should be a virtual network, and then there should be a demilitarized zone that we call in computer terminologies. And then you have a email server going down. Just switch it off. Who is calling? Number. Give it to Saroja madam. Sir should be calling. He should come down. Saroja madam. So there is information technology. The server is down. What do you do? For your emails. And what is the process that you follow, and who will come in order to plug in back the servers, or who do you contact? See, we have a Moodle server, a learning management system, and at times the server would not open and students would complain. Then who should you contact in CST in order to make it happen? And who would go physically, check the server, see if the power cable is not right or something has gone wrong, and fix it. It is a recovery plan that has to be set in. Okay, so these plans and policies are based on the hardware that you have, or we call it the infrastructure. Infrastructure can either be hardware or it can be software, and then there is a management layer to it. What does the management layer do? Give some risk management, business continuity plans, validation and testing. You would have done software testing, software validation. Okay, why do you do that? Why do you validate your software? To say that it has completed the objective, it achieves the objective for which it has been designed, right? So here we have a risk management plan, then business continuity plan and validation and testing. Simple example would be a fire drill that happens in big organizations where there is high risk of fire. There will be a bell and every employee will have to do it, go through the motions of doing it. So that is called as validation and testing. And then you have the policies and strategies, the business continuity plan. Those are the policies that people who define the policies will give to us, okay? I want you to look at the policy of an educational institution that I have shared. There are 3 PDFs that I have shared. One is Canford. I looked for small disaster recovery plan. No, this is a company's disaster recovery plan, the Canford disaster recovery plan. The document is very simple. There is not much technical details involved in it. But the information that they have given provides you with all that is required in order to make the business continuity happen, even if a person is there or a person is not there. Okay, so the plans or the policies are very, very important for organizational continuity, where, if you are a startup, you would do everything for your problem, for your company. Okay, because you are the only person holding and you are the only person who is responsible, and you are passionate about the company that you have created. Whereas in a company of 100 employees, there would be 10 people who are passionate and 90 people who just come here for doing the job, for the pay that they give. So how do you, if everyone is passionate, you don't have to have a plan, because the plan will evolve by itself. But to make all the other 90 people go according to a strategy, we need a disaster recovery plan, so that the plan would be successful. Okay, can you just go through this? Just skim through the disaster recovery plan. So here they have identified some of the disasters that happen around their area. Say NIT Trichy doesn't have to worry very much about earthquakes, because we are not in the seismic sensitive zone. Okay, but we are worried about floods that may happen because we have Kaveri river flowing close by. Then we are worried about droughts, and then other disasters, fire, then epidemic disease, loss of power or severe weather, all those conditions, cyclonic circulations that come in, and sudden death or incapacity of a key staff. In a topmost position someone goes, then there is no, we call it policy paralysis. That should not happen. It leads to a disaster in an organization. Then loss of IT capability, including hacking incidents. We have a honeypot node here in NIT Trichy. A honeypot node is something that will lure people into sending their malwares. It will look like NIT Trichy website, and it will look like NIT Trichy's system, but it will be vulnerable and people can directly access the contents inside it, install their malware and try whatever they want. But after which it will not allow them to use any of the critical resources present in NIT Trichy. Okay, and that honeypot was actually a part of the National Cyber Coordination Center scheme, which tries to understand malwares, because malwares keep constantly evolving, and hacking, you will not be able to find a solution immediately. You do it today, tomorrow they will make a different malware and they will provide with the new type of methodology to hack inside, right? So in such cases, there should be systems that will prevent such incidents from happening. And the honeypot node is one such method that the government of India has used to collect what are the different types of hacking that happen, so that security advisories can be sent to institutions. So we have many types of disasters and risks, and what are their business priorities. This document gives the time scale within which the people have to be notified that there has been a disaster happening, and if it is not done, then it will be escalated to the next level. So that is how the corporate system works. The next page. So there's a CEO and a disaster recovery team, and normal business operations to be fully resumed within 1 to 3 months. Okay, so there is LA fire, Los Angeles fire, and how do you do a disaster recovery? It's a disaster, unexpected, but there should be a recovery plan according to which it goes in. Okay, and without a recovery plan, you will have to forego your business, or your business would start running into losses. So the recovery plan and the business continuity plan, an alternative to what can be done when a disaster happens, is important. This is a disaster recovery team. So everyone involved in your organization would have a part in it. Say in NIT Trichy, we have the director, the deans, and the heads of various infrastructure. So we have committees for all the infrastructures. All those people would have a presence in the recovery team, because they all have to be combined in order to make decisions together. This gives you a set of people. You can just go through them. So they have a purchasing manager, sales director, finance director, and various other people. Next. And this is the call chart, ensuring all contact information is passed on to the disaster recovery lead, and there is an activation plan. If needed, there is an evacuation during working hours. Okay, so that plan is also there. You would have, some simple example is, you would have fire escape plans fitted inside malls, if you look at it, because in malls you don't have control over who is going where. So there should be prominent places and an escape route that is available, so that people can run on to safety when there is a sudden disaster that happens. That is a mandatory inclusion in the construction itself. For construction industry, they have safety rules and then safety guidelines. That is to proactively take measures to stop the damage that happens in case of uneventful disasters or unforeseen disasters that happen in. Okay, so mostly this disaster recovery plan is for something that happens because of exegesis, out of control disasters. Normal disasters that happen, maybe a fire, we have a fire hydrant inside this room. Okay, it's mandatory and there are safety principles and there should not be any live wires outside. Okay, and everything should be encased and you should have ventilation and it should not be a fully closed room. Okay, if it is a fully closed room, then there should be proper air vent and air condition should function inside it. So there are a lot of rules for building safety that is given as a disaster recovery plan for common disasters that happen. What we are looking at is something that will happen maybe once in 10 years, once in 5 years, and it is unforeseen, which has not been experienced earlier. Still you have a recovery plan for it so that the business would continue in that. Okay, it can be a simple disaster or a disaster involving a lot of stakeholders corresponding to a company. Okay, one pen drive not working is a disaster during a board meet. Okay, so everything has its own implications depending on where it is being used. So evacuation orders in terms of fire, emergency evacuation procedure should be followed. If it is not followed, then there will be legal consequences. The company would have various procedures to penalize the individuals responsible for it. If we take on a position of responsibility, we should be aware of all these principles and plans that are there. We cannot say I have a position of responsibility but I am not aware of it. It comes along with the position of responsibility that is given to us. Next. And if there is no evacuation or recovery plan, if you are in a position of head of an institute, you are supposed to create a policy. That's why you are here today. Trying to learn how to write policies and contracts, though it appears vague and you don't understand it, still it is required because as a head of a startup or an innovator or an entrepreneur, you should be aware of whatever is required for an organization. And supporting information on the website, then for the staff, for the key customers, for media communication, and for the review of the procedures. Okay, so they have one more sheet. This is a valid document. There is a signature and the chief executive officer takes responsibility for the document that has been created. Can you go to the next policy? No, not business, disaster recovery. No, disaster management, yes. I think this is for the Riverside College. I wanted to look at an educational institution since most of you were from educational institutions. This is their disaster management and business continuity plan. It's got 25 pages. Can you just skim through the pages? And they have the general information, roles and responsibilities, control centers, immediate disaster action level, communication protocol, recovery and restoration, maintenance and testing. So they have procedures for doing them. I'll just leave it here. This is a general context and policy where they define what is present in this particular document since the size of the document is big. Please go through the document on your laptops. And if you have any questions, you can raise. And phone madam time. So this includes the risk management and financial in aspects, whistleblowing aspects, health, safety, IT security. That's why it's a big document. Just go through the document, and you need not have to read the complete document. It will take time. You can do it later. Go to the next slide. Next page. Next. So they have given this in phases. Okay. Trigger phase, control phase, recovery phase, and review phase. Okay. So there are different ways in which you can plan your document. Since this is an academic institution, they have given phases. So each phase would be triggered based on different things that happen during the process of disaster recovery. Okay. So trigger phase will be assessment, reporting, decision making on discovery of an incident, where you see a theft, then immediately what are all you are supposed to do. Okay. The control phase will be to minimize the danger or risk and to bring the incident under control. Then the recovery phase would be to react effectively after an incident has been brought under control. A review phase will be to debrief, analyze, and then review operations. Okay. So unless you have a prior knowledge about the plan, you will find it very difficult when you are going through a disaster. Okay. This prior information about the plan and making all the stakeholders aware of it is very important. In the US, you know, if you go into a university, you will have to take a set of courses. Once you get admission as a student into the university, you will have to go through all these policies and plans that they have in place in order to start using their laboratories. Now, one of my friend got admission into a prestigious university in US, and he said he had to complete certain online certification courses, and those courses involved safety concerns. He was from biotechnology. So they have some ethical rules, safety, and then how to handle animals and procedures for all that. And they have a course, a self-learning course, that has to be taken in order to understand what are these policies and what are these frameworks. We don't take time to read all 25 pages. You know, we think that it's a waste of time. But for an employee in that college, it's important that you know about this, because your instincts have to kick in and you should be able to follow the procedures that are given here, right? So for that, normally awareness about the policy has to be given to all the employees, and most industries have a training phase, 6 months training, so that you will fit into the given company, and the company's culture, the plans, the policies, the contracts, everything would be explained to the individuals so that they will be able to fit inside. Go to the PDF. Next. So business continuity plan will include steps ensuring smooth functioning during or after a tragedy, and it can consist of people, technology, and facilities, and it gives a long-term viewpoint. That is very important. Your disaster recovery is short-term. As soon as a disaster happens, what should I do? Whereas business continuity is long time. Should I use the same place or shift on to a new location? Okay? It's a continuity process decision that we take. And it involves all organizational and department stakeholders for the business continuity plan. Whereas for the disaster recovery plan, it involves associated technical staff and IT personnel in them. Next slide. So this gives you a meaning, the scope, the objective, the time, components, who are all involved, testing and maintenance, and communication. Can you just read it? And if you have any doubts, you can ask me. Please read the slide that is displayed on the screen. What are the backups plan you have for your own critical data, your certificates, your information? Do you have a personal backup plan? Suppose your system hangs, you suddenly. Yes. So backup plans, communication tactics that we use. Backup plans, then communication strategies, fail over strategies, and methods to restore systems. Those are all technical aspects of it. Okay? But for management perspective, who should be informed? And what is the hierarchy? And how much time should be spent in order to inform, within which the information has to be escalated. Okay? I would give an example of people writing their examinations. You know, NTA has conducted examinations for crores of students, and all these students go to different institutions, they write their exams and they come out. And there should be a recovery plan, there should be a continuity plan. What is the continuity plan? If a student doesn't report within a particular time, immediately the center head has to be notified. Whereas it need not be given to NTA, because NTA is not worried about it. The center head has to know. And if the student has, caught in some problem, there will be a set of rules that has to be followed. And the center in charge would be held accountable if it has not been reported. Because after the exam, someone goes to the police station, files a complaint, there will be a person coming back to inquire. Unless you have backups of all the details according to the recovery plan, you will be held accountable for not going according to the procedures. Procedures and rules, protocols are very important in order to maintain flow of smooth flow when stakeholders, a large number of people are involved in it. Okay? What happened when there was this big billion day, no? They gave a big billion day and the servers crashed because the number of people who logged inside were more, and they did not envision it. So then they had to have a recovery plan, they had to stop it and then try to continue the business. And there are other methods that they are trying to envision in order to make this happen. It can be both hardware, software, technical, or policy. Okay, management decisions that you take. Next. So these are the 10 elements of disaster recovery plan template. One is risk assessment. If it is not a high risk, we can ignore it. If it is a risk to the business or to the amount of profit that we are making, or it affects the stakeholders, or it's morally, ethically not right, then the risk has to be addressed too. The business impact analysis, what will be the impact of this on the business? Say a cyclone coming, what will be the impact of it on the educational institution working? Okay. Now we wait for the collector to give us an advisory saying that schools and colleges are closed. The collector is responsible. He makes his decision based on the weather report that comes from the meteorological station, right? So it's a complex process that is involved, and there should be a set of rules, there should be a set of protocols that follow, and if it impacts the business, then there is a policy decision that is made. Okay, since mostly NIT Trichy is residential, if there is a puja in Srirangam, NIT Trichy doesn't have a leave, because the streets would be congested and there will be a local holiday to all the institutions inside Trichy. But NIT Trichy would function normally, because it's not going to affect the community inside, okay, or the stakeholders inside. So this is where you analyze the impact and then try to make a decision based on it. Then the recovery objectives, what are the main objectives, that varies according to the business or the institution. The data backup and recovery plan, the redundant systems and infrastructure that you use, you should not waste, and you should not, you cannot spend a lot on something that is not necessary. So there has to be a plan based on it. How many redundant systems you use and how do you protect them, what type of infrastructure you provide for them. A secondary site, these, your Google replicates in 3 different sites in 3 different geographic locations across the world. Okay, your Gmail drive will be in 3 different locations. That's how Google tries to replicate in order to provide us with access to information. Okay, so the secondary sites, all major technical companies have secondary sites where they store the information, because replication provides you with an alternative when one information fails. And communication and notification to individuals within and outside the organization. What is the flow of communication? Who should be informed immediately, and what should be the protocol that is followed? Okay, that should be put on paper in order to know the plan. There should be an emergency response plan, and then testing and training all the stakeholders to understand what that plan is, so that they are aware of it. We have discussed about all this. Documentation and periodic review. The disasters keep changing, demographics keep changing. We have extreme weather conditions present now. So for all these changes that happen, how do we document and how do we review the statements that we have, the plans that we have, so that sudden infrastructure addition happens, that infrastructure should also be included in the disaster recovery plan. Okay? So normally we have managers trying to put in all these policies together along with the legal advice, so that the document is, works with all kinds of exigencies that happen in any situation. Next slide. So one more, 3 C's. 4 C's of, 4 C's of disaster recovery. Communication. What happened? I just leave it as such, yes. 4 C's of disaster recovery. You have communication, collaboration, coordination, and cooperation. So this is from the business perspective. Okay, for any business organization doing business, communication is for developing and maintaining effective channels for sharing information before, during, and after disasters. Okay, and we would be held with criminal charges if we have not reported the disaster on time. Okay, or if we could have prevented the disaster and we had found lacking in certain safety standards, then there would be a criminal action against us, because we have, it's called as negligence of our duty as a principal or as a head of an organization to provide with safety standards for the employees given in the organization. Okay, so before disaster, during disaster, and after disasters, we had marriage halls being caught on fire. Okay, so someone has to be held accountable. Recently we had the Kumbh Mela stampede. Okay, someone has to be held accountable, right? So there is some lapse in the procedure. We learn from it, then remake the document that we have and put in checks and places so that the protocols can be followed. Okay, because normally when a disaster happens, there would be chaos. So in the midst of chaos, someone should be responsible for the plan and carry out the plan, and they should be aware of the plan also, right? So that is very, very important. Then collaboration, you can partner with external and internal parties to identify challenges and responsibilities to recover from disaster as quickly as possible. Industries normally have safety and security engineers who create these policies, periodically check, audit a particular institution. Then in educational institutions, we have NAC, we have other accrediting agencies and agencies that inspect the institute to see if the facilities are there, if the proper guidelines have been followed. So those are all checks and places that have been used in order to work, and we collaborate with external agencies to come and inspect our facility and give a certification to it, saying that this factory is capable of creating something for which it has been designed for. And there will be a lot of protocols that are followed or industrial standards that are set up. Normally for any production line or any systems, workflow or supply chain, whatever it is, there will be a set of policies and procedures that have to be followed for the safety and security. Cooperation for working with internal and external parties that share the same goal, responding to and recovering from disasters and strategies for achieving it. So any company will have its own disaster recovery plan. And if there is no disaster recovery plan, we formulate a plan, because all of you have been adept at creating policies now. So you can write a policy depending on the type of disasters that happen and how I will be able to protect my organization from the disasters. There is one other document that is the third document that I've shared, which is a common policy. One was a company, this is for an educational institute. The third is a general policy for disaster recovery, for business continuity. Yes. This is a business continuity and disaster recovery policy. The document describes the measures in place at the level of Power ENP, which is a company, and the purpose is to outline the course of action for continuation of critical business functions and the measures for recovery in event of a disaster. This framing of this policy is itself a job that a person in the company does, and the policy is constantly reviewed in order to check if it has overlooked certain instances that happen, and then the policy is updated based on some problems that happen. So we have our board meetings, or we have our company executive meetings, wherein these policies are discussed and these policies are evaluated and reviewed to see if something new can be added on to it. Okay? So applicability, who all does it apply to? And they give the number of hours. Okay? General framework applicable for all potential threats, crises and emergencies, irrespective of their origin, severity and type, that may affect the company's essential operations. What is essential operations have to be defined. Now, getting tea for the employees is not essential operation, right? But the server, the operation of the server, uptime of the server, or the number of users that access, those are all essential operations. And it also lists the number of situations. If you look at it, it's natural or man-made disaster, weather events, fire, flood, utility outages, pandemic, civil unrest, physical breach, unauthorized access, fire, flood, malware, ransomware, cybersecurity incident. This malware, ransomware happens if you have a server. Okay, so we'll have to have checks and places. Even if we have our own laptop, we have to have a check to it. So what we normally do is have an antivirus and then constantly update it if the system or the content that we have in our laptops are critical. Okay, so any system that you have, we should have a policy in place for power, telecommunications, server system crashes, then partners, suppliers, key personnel involved in the organization. So there are various facets to the organization, and all these are supposed to be considered. Then there are some assumptions that they are making. Which is the location of the company in which this policy will hold good? Because this policy is legal, and we have to abide by what is being told in the policy, right? Next. So they have given details of the premises. Then the data center, access to data and backup. So they have a cloud-based solution, and it's backup done via FTP. The server can be accessed from the laptop only through VPN connection, and they have some procedures, okay? And the IT architecture behind the business model and how it works. So they keep expanding on whatever is required for the well-being of their company, for the continuity of their plan. Once a problem has occurred, how can you continue working and have minimum downtime or minimum disruption to the everyday work of an industry? Say, in a company, we don't worry about people not reporting to work because they will be replaced. Whereas, if you look at a supply chain, if there is a machine failure, then the whole supply chain has to stop. What do you call it? Assembly line, I'm sorry, it's not supply chain. In an assembly line, if one robotic arm fails, then the whole assembly line has to stop, and then starting it takes a lot of time and effort, and it wastes a lot of resources. So we call it predictive maintenance, prescriptive maintenance, where we try to foresee that this part of the machine would lose their oil, and the oil has to be replenished. So we call it a prescriptive maintenance, trying to foresee when it happened last time, when it will happen next, and even before it stops, you try to fix the problem so that you don't wait for the ball bearing to wear out in order to change it, but you change it within a prescriptive time. So we use analytics, ML models and DL models in order to use previous data to make these kind of predictions in them. So the IT infrastructure has its own set of recovery and disaster management plans with them, okay? And we are using models, DL models, ML models in order to predict a disaster, and even hurricanes. The meteorological department would predict the exact path the hurricane travels through so that people will be evacuated from the path, and you would reduce the number of people who die, okay? And now we have weather prediction systems also, but our weather prediction systems, I am not going to comment on them, okay? We have a lot of technology going into it, and they are all disaster recovery systems, okay? And even our weather systems have become disasters now. They just have a cloud burst, and they say it will shine, and it just dumps rain onto a particular place. So the type of disaster also keeps changing. There has been a way in which these disasters have been evolving, and what was not a disaster earlier has become a disaster now. Earlier, if you forget your mobile phone, you don't worry about it. Today, you forget your mobile phone, it's a big disaster. No? The whole day you will not be able to do anything. And you go to your company without your laptop, nothing works. Okay, you misplace your laptop, or someone steals your laptop when you are traveling to your company, then everything stops. Okay, so there should be a continuity plan, there should be a recovery plan, and the type of disasters also keep changing. Okay, any questions you have, you can ask me. You can read through this. Okay, there may be some disasters that require emergency people working on them, some disasters that require external support because your company doesn't have the solutions for it. So there are different ways in which the recovery plan can be formulated, but there should be a plan. If you are the CEO of the company, you should be aware of the plan, you should create a plan, disseminate it to all the employees or the stakeholders, and see that they execute the plan when a problem happens. or else they will not find fault with the employee. They will find fault with the organizational head. And the head cannot say, because he takes responsibility for the upkeep and the smooth running of any company or industry. Okay? Any questions you have? Please go through the 3 policies that have been given to you. Don't worry, I will not ask you to write a disaster recovery plan. We will work with the e-commerce part of it, because e-commerce is very important and it has become a part of everything that we do. So we will have an assignment on the e-commerce and the e-business part of today's lecture. But know that disaster recovery is very, very important. And without a recovery plan, you will have to face losses, and you will have to give up something which you normally have if there is no recovery plan in your hand. Okay? So it's important that you try to fix the problem as early as possible, so that it's interesting. Okay? So that it gives you time in order to adjust yourself and rebound from what you have experienced in your life. We do it personally every time, but when it comes to an organization, we normally stop, because we think someone has to instruct us in order to do it. Okay? And in most Indian systems, if your HOD doesn't tell us, we don't do it. If the organizer doesn't tell us, we just sit. We don't take responsibility for ourselves. That's because there is no recovery plan for a disaster. We envision that this workshop will not have a disaster. So there is no recovery plan. Okay? But when a disaster happens, when something stops, then someone steps in immediately in order to solve the problem. Okay? Suppose we move up and there's no food there. It's a disaster. According to some people who are feeling very, very hungry, then immediately someone has to call and make a recovery. Okay? So we are doing it constantly, but when more people are involved, whatever we do constantly has to be more organized. Okay? You cannot go about calling for people, 5 persons calling him, the person at the same time. That will result in chaos, or someone shouting because they are angry that the food is not there. So it will result in chaos when more number of people are all joined together, and each one has their own individual views of how to solve the problem. Then a plan normally helps, because there is a list of rules and we follow the list of rules in order to make things happen. So the person who drafts the list of rules is very, very important. We call them to be consultants. Okay? Actually, Prakash sir is a compliance officer. He goes and checks whether there is compliance to a set of rules, and they make a lot of consultancy money. So if you are interested in doing consultancy, you can write these kind of rules for organizations and get money from them, and then check whether they are following these rules. And there are organizations, standard organizations also, that help. It's simple, easy. You will have to learn a bit of how it is done, or you should have a management degree or a law degree in order to make this happen. And we also have BTech Planning and Management now, a course that is being offered for people who are interested in these kind of plan formulation, policy formulation and doing. We have a separate course that is available, which you can do in order to work with policy framing, decision making, planning commissions, and important government organizations. And in future, for educational institutions everywhere, we would require people who will do this planning and who will do this drafting also. Okay? Any questions you can ask, or else we will break for lunch. When a company is being established, I don't know the company rules, but there is a list of things that the company has to do, if I am right. So Prakash sir would give you the right answer, but there is a list of preconditions before you register your company. As a company, there should be a compliance officer, a lawyer, a set of plans. For a small company, it normally comes in. When the size of a company increases, it becomes customized according to the company that you create.
Usually, it depends on the company and the standards that governs that company.
Okay.
For example, if we take an IT company, so they must be compliant to some of the standards like ISO 27001.
Yes.
Which we call it as a golden standard. So in that standard, if a company says I am compliant to that standard, it means they will have a recovery plan under that compliance.
So all your ISO standards have a recovery plan given in them.
ISO standard will say that so if you are compliant, you must have all these parameters. So usually, Prakash sir, like persons, they will do an audit, compliance audit they will do, and based on that audit they will do the report. So then the
And that report has to be submitted every year.
No, it need not be submitted,
but it is. I remember. IS? MS, okay.
Now, disaster recovery and business continuity is a mandatory course in that. Now, in that, you have to have disaster recovery drills running or two times annually. That's the mandate. And
every organization.
Every organization, not government of India, is mandatory that all the government organizations has to follow the ISMS
guidelines. But they do they have auditors coming in periodically checking?
They have, as part of this, you should be having 2 internal audits running in a year and 1 external audit.
Okay.
Conducted in a year.
Okay.
And that
Report.
unless this external audit, that is a audit which has to be certified, the auditors have to be certified from ISMS.
Okay. 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 Complain. See, we have this in educational institutions, unless you have all the compliances, the, what do you call it? License is cancelled or the grant is cancelled, no?
Now I think there is a directive coming from government saying that all the institutes or whatever is getting funded from government has to
comply.
Now it will become the responsibility of the CISO to train these policies, train this thing.
Yes. And they give the policy, so we just customize that according to our infrastructure and comply and give them a report.
Basically, when you are looking at disaster recovery plan, you need to identify your ground rules. Ground rules is something that without that, the system will not work. Then you have to also protect.
You call it crown jewels. Okay, okay. So those are all terminologies that from business perspective people use, but so far industry had strict norms because they were profit making and government institutions did not have the enforcement fully. Now they are slowly bringing that in because government institutions are also going into partnership with public-private initiatives. So the compliance has been slowly integrated and separate digital recovery plan, safety audit of an infrastructure. So there are different facets to it depending on it. Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Is it time? Shall we break for lunch? Yes. Yes? 10 more minutes is there? Oh, our lunch is not ready. Did you get signatures in the, please check your names in the for the certificates to be printed so that if there's any change, please let us know. And you can go through the document that has been shared, the plan policy document that has been shared.